I want you to think of a scary moment in your life, a time when you felt sick to your stomach, your heart is racing, your palms are sweaty. You may have thought of going on a roller coaster, taking a test, doing a speech, or seeing a massive spider. What if I told you that I get that feeling each time I go to a new place? Some of you might think that's a little strange, so I'll explain. I have a learning difficulty called dyspraxia. According to the Dyspraxic Foundation, dyspraxia is a form of developmental coordination disorder, or DCD. It is a common disorder affecting fine and/or gross motor coordination in children and adults. It may also affect speech. DCD is a lifelong condition, formally recognized by international organizations, including the World Health Organization. 5 to 10% of the population has dyspraxic tendencies, and 2% are severely affected. I was 8 when I was diagnosed with dyspraxia, and I spent my life overcoming challenges that for most people wouldn't exist. The general public knows very little about dyspraxia and other learning difficulties. This lack of understanding can lead to isolation and even bullying. I believe that if people understood more about dyspraxia, the world would be richer for it. Now for the science of it, or should I say lack of science. Scientists still know very little about what causes dyspraxia, but it is thought to be due to problems with neuron development. The brain can take longer to transmit messages in a direct and clear way. This can slow down thought processing and even impact speech formulation. Telling stories in a succinct and understandable way can also be hard, and it can lead to the story looking something like this. Short-term memory is often weak for those with dyspraxia, and this can make remembering homework, lists, and information for exams difficult. Bad short-term memory means information is not easily retained and it takes longer to complete homework and revise. This is why in exams, extra time is so vital and useful. I was tested in year 10 to see if I qualified for extra time. I do, and now have 25% extra time on all my exams. I couldn't believe when I began to actually finish in the allocated time. To tell you the truth, I was embarrassed to get extra time, and I thought I was cheating in some way. But then I realized this simply levels the playing field. Imagine a running track. Yours is a steep, rocky, winding road, and you look over at your classmates. Their track is a straight, flat piece of road. How is that fair? That is what exams are like for someone with dyspraxia. Getting extra time is the equivalent to getting to run on the same flat, straight piece of road as everyone else. It makes the test fair. Dyspraxia also causes difficulty in concentration. 50% of people with dyspraxia also have ADHD. The dyspraxic brain can be compulsive and jump from one task to another frequently, or becomes focused on other things whilst doing work. This can lead to work taking longer and the student becoming frustrated. Dyspraxia creates heightened sensitivity to sound, fatigue, and movement. This all seems relatively normal and something most people would experience. However, dyspraxia can heighten senses so much that everyday things can become distracting. For example, if you hear others talking, most people, if they want to, can draw their attention back to their work. For someone with dyspraxia, it can be nearly impossible to focus. This can make learning in a busy place, like a school, challenging. However, there are ways to cope, such as sitting at the front of the classroom or studying alone so you're not distracted by your friends. Dyspraxia affects the processing of information. The dyspraxic brain doesn't follow the normal sequence of A, B, C, which allows for fast processing speed and quick thinking. Instead, it decides to take the more scenic route of A to D, back to B, then F, J, M, and finally C. The problem is that the brain finds it hard to create connections and has to work around that by going the long way around. This also means the brain has to work much harder to get from one thought or connection to another. Learning and understanding or even following sequences and series can be tough. Things like a school timetable can be confusing, and accidentally looking at the wrong day or the wrong period is a common problem. This could lead to forgetting books and equipment. This is also why changing plans at the last minute can be very stressful, especially if the activities planned require additional clothing or equipment. What can help to reduce stress is planning in advance. Writing a checklist for different activities so you don't forget the essentials. The key to this is that you remember to check them. Dyspraxia affects direction. At the beginning, I told you that I was terrified about traveling. This is because dyspraxia means I am unable to understand where I am in relation to other places, and therefore will find it hard to navigate. As with most learning difficulties, dyspraxia can make school challenging. Some of the most impacted subjects are English, maths, and a second language. A good English essay requires a logical structure. Maths requires you to follow a set process and sequence, and to learn a foreign language, you need to follow a grammatical structure and learn new vocabulary. The irony for me is that I am taking both English and maths at A level. This shows the power of early intervention. As a kid, I received additional support, which, together with my own hard work, enabled me to cope with GCSEs and now A levels. The physical challenges that occur with dyspraxia are arguably the most obvious, because of how visible they are. Coordination difficulties affect handwriting, running, catching, jumping, tying ropes, cooking, getting dressed, and other daily activities. Handwriting for those with dyspraxia can be difficult. Even if it is neat to begin with, after a period of time the writing will become messier due to fatigue. Things like running and skipping are frustrating because the brain finds it difficult to plan and process these motor skills, making the movements appear unorganized and random. A bit like the thought process I talked about earlier. The brain does not follow the conventional structure of thought, and this means it takes longer to process the movement, making reaction time slow. This can make PE lessons very stressful, as well as embarrassing. The most common example given for physical challenges in dyspraxics is riding a bike. For most people with dyspraxia, it takes a long time to learn how to ride a bike, and some people never do. In the latest series of Doctor Who, one of the Doctor's new assistants, Brian, was revealed to be dyspraxic. In the first episode, he was struggling to ride a bike. In another episode, Ryan is packing boxes and is unusually good for someone with dyspraxia. He explains that he got a lot of practice in a previous job. These scenes demonstrate that with practice and perseverance, many tasks can be mastered. But some will require more time than others. We all know how big of an effect media can have on us. So to see my disability portrayed on such a popular TV show made me both excited and nervous. I was concerned that they would not portray dyspraxia properly. Of course, they were not able to fully explore all the effects and focus primarily on the physical issues, not touching so much on the mental effect. Nevertheless, it is encouraging to see the learning disabilities covered in media, raising awareness. I believe not enough is done to train educators about learning difficulties, specifically dyspraxia, which is a big problem. This can lead to undiagnosis. For example, in the school, I am the only one with dyspraxia as a core learning difficulty, and 2 others have dyspraxia in their subdiagnosis. But statistics show that in a class of 30 pupils, there will be at least one person with dyspraxic tendencies. Dyspraxia can cause lasting effects on mental health and self-esteem. This is amplified when people go undiagnosed, as they may just consider themselves stupid. Students spend a lot of time in school, so I believe it would be extremely beneficial for all teachers, no matter the subject, to have a basic understanding of common learning difficulties, so they have the knowledge on how best to support their students. In primary school, my Chinese was my least favorite subject. I hated it. My teacher couldn't understand why I was not learning at the same rate as my classmates. So she assumed that I was either lazy or dumb or both. I felt so frustrated and complained to my parents. They explained to her that I had dyspraxia and found it hard to learn new languages. She was absolutely mortified. For my next Chinese class, she was kind and supportive. One of the most frustrating things someone with dyspraxia can experience is being thought of as lazy or stupid, when actually they're working hard every single day just to keep up. Friendships are an important part of life. However, for someone with dyspraxia, it can be hard to get and keep friends. People with dyspraxia often lack knowledge of social cues and can appear to others as different, weird, or immature. This can lead to social anxiety. We socialize in different ways as we grow up, and each new scenario creates different challenges. Younger children often play games requiring quick thinking and coordination. For example, clapping rhythm games. These games can be frustrating for someone with dyspraxia, and as a result, they may choose not to play. Opting out of these games can lead to social isolation from a young age, damaging self-esteem. Older children tend to socialize through discussion, and it can be tricky for someone with dyspraxia to voice their opinions in a concise manner and contribute to the conversation. If you are friends with someone who has dyspraxia, you can support them in simple ways that will make their lives a little easier. Trying to understand what your friend is experiencing can make them feel much more at ease and supported. Just be careful not to generalize, as dyspraxia affects everyone differently. So talk with your friend to see how you can help them. Dyspraxia is a hidden disability, which can make it hard to understand, as you can't see it. However, proving that you are willing to try can mean a lot. Parental relationships are equally important. Unfortunately, due to lack of education and awareness, some parents are unable to understand why and how dyspraxia affects their child. Being understanding and supportive of a child's situation and the extra challenges they may face is important. The Dyspraxic Learner Strategies for Success by Alison Patrick is a great book to help parents understand their child and for their child to understand themselves. Between 25 and 40% of people with learning difficulties struggle with their mental health, and it is common for those with dyspraxia to experience anxiety and self-esteem issues, myself included. Dyspraxia does not reduce intelligence. The brain just does not work in the same way most do, and this can be frustrating. However, those with dyspraxia often have their strengths in other areas, such as being an independent learner, having a strong work ethic, thinking creatively, and being empathetic. I have wondered what it would be like to not have dyspraxia, but I will never know. Dyspraxia is my normal. Throughout my life, I have armed myself with research and strategies that can help me. I have used this knowledge to compile this talk, which I hope will help others. But why should you care about dyspraxia? Most of you don't have it. Well, dyspraxia is more common than we realize. You will almost certainly come into contact with someone who has dyspraxia. Your child, a sibling, a friend, a pupil, a co-worker. I hope this talk will be useful to you, should you ever need to support someone with dyspraxia.